What's up guys, welcome back to Nuts and Bolts Auto, and today I'm going to be changing out the radiator on my 1995 Ford Ranger with 3.0. So I'll be changing out the radiator because I've already pressure tested the system and I can see the leak coming from right under it. I guess it's running along the whole side. There's a crack right there. If you'd like to check that video out, I'm going to link it up here on the corner, and that'll show you guys how to use a cooling system pressure tester to find a leak anywhere in the cooling system. Okay, so a quick overview of what we're going to do is we're going to be removing this air hose. So you're going to be removing all these little hose clamps and this connector. This fan shroud is going to move out of the way as well. There's a 10mm right here and another one on the opposite side, and on the bottom it's just pushed into a little notch on the radiator. So once you got the two fasteners on top off, then you can slide the fan shroud out and forward over the fan. To remove the radiator itself, there's a 10mm right here, and again on the opposite side. On the bottom it just slides into a bracket, also on the opposite side, and we have these two transmission lines for the transmission cooler. The top and bottom, you'd have to remove these as well. So once again, whenever you're working on a cooling system and you're gonna take off the radiator cap, you want to make sure that your cooling system is cold. You really don't want to do this on a hot engine because as soon as you open this up, all the coolant is going to blow out and you could burn yourself. So I'm going to get started with the easiest first, which is this air hose. So we're going to remove this hose clamp, just loosen it. This one too. This connector, we're going to pull it off. And this other hose clamp right here. With all that loosened up, you can pull this hose off. You can pull it off the throttle and pull it off the air box. With the air hose out of the way, now we can remove the fan shroud. Again, it's going to have a 10mm right here and on the other side. You want to take those off and then pull it up and over the fan. Now you do the same thing on the opposite side, and once you got it loose, now you can get it off the hand. Now that you got both fasteners out of the way, you can grab the fan shroud and pull it up and then just push it over on top of the fan. Just be careful not to mess around with this so you don't break any of the blades off. So that right there is the radiator petcock. You're gonna take it off, just loosen it, and it'll start draining out the radiator. What it is just a little valve. It's got the little bolt and that thread's in there, so as soon as you start pulling it out, it's going to have a hollow area where it's going to allow the coolant to come out and drain. So once you got it loose, it's going to be draining. It's going to hit this bracket right here, run down, and drain out that side. So make sure you've got a pan to hold it up. When you got it open over there, you can come up here and remove the cap so it drains a little faster. As you can see, that made a big difference. So while that finishes up draining, we can remove the upper radiator hose. That's going to be an 8mm right there, and then some pliers to remove it off of this side. With the hose clamp out of the way, just give it a turn to break it loose right there and pull the hose out. So on here it's the same thing. If it's stuck, give it a turn and wiggle it out. So since I'm going to replace the radiator, I'm just going to go ahead and replace the hoses as well. I got a brand new one right here. Now we can remove this bar for the jack and the overflow hose for the radiator. There it is. I just moved the bar over, and just be careful, since you're moving it around here, don't touch the two battery terminals together. Now with that done, you can pull the overflow hose out of the way. With the overflow hose out of the way, the only thing left to do is take off that hose clamp right there for the lower radiator hose, and then I'm going to replace the hose as well. So I'm going to be removing the hose clamp that hooks up to the engine. So with the lower hose clamp loosened, it's going to start leaking again. Now that it's drained off most of what it's going to drain, you can grab the hose and pull it off. So with the lower radiator hose off, now we can take off the transmission cooler line. I'm going to use a 3/4 inch wrench to hold on to this end, and a 5/8 flare nut wrench to pull the line off. So here we go, we have the flare nut fitting out of the way. Now you can do the same thing on the bottom one. So there it is, the one at the bottom is a whole lot harder to get to, but it's possible, it's out of the way. Now we can remove the top two 10mm bolts to get the radiator out. So with both two fasteners out of the way, you can grab each end of the radiator and pop it out of the bracket and just pull it straight out. As you're pulling the radiator out, you want to make sure not to damage the AC condenser. Also, as you're pulling it out, as soon as you turn it off to the side, it's going to drain a little more, so you can hold it in place and let it drain. With the old radiator out, you can see that it leaked right here, right along where the metal and the plastic meet together, that clamp. So the coolant would leak right here and drain all the way down the side. So right here's the new radiator. You want to transfer over anything that's not included, like if you need the fittings for the transmission lines, the little bushings or the clips that hold the radiator on. Anything that needs to be transferred over, transfer it over right now. In my case, mine came with new fittings and the clips, so I'm good right there. This does come with two pairs of fittings, so they're different sizes, so just make sure to see which one fits your lines. So these little caps are there just to cap off the hole in case you're not going to put in your transmission lines or your vehicle doesn't have this transmission cooler. You can leave these on there, but mine does, so I'm going to take it off. Just make sure nothing falls in there. To put on the clips, you just grab it, push it over. Once you got both clips on there, now you can grab the fittings and put them in by hand. Make sure you put them in nice and straight, and always by hand first so you don't cross thread them in there. I'll do the next one. So to tighten these up, I just use this wrench right here and grab that one and then tighten it with the 3/4. You don't want to tighten it too crazy because this isn't going to have a lot of pressure. It's just for the transmission oil to go through. So just as long as it's snug and it's not going to fall off. So with that done, now we can go ahead and put the radiator in. So it's just going to go in the same way it came out. Real nice and slow and straight. So there we have the new radiator installed. Now we just got to go ahead and bolt everything back up the way it came off. So now we got everything in place. Just go down there and double check that the petcock is closed, so when you put the coolant it doesn't drain out, and it's time to put in the coolant. Once you filled up the radiator to the top, you want to give the upper hose a couple squeezes and it'll push out any bubbles and draw in the coolant. Once you see that the coolant level dropped, go ahead and fill it up again and repeat the process. Once your radiator is full and there's no more air bubbles coming out, you can go ahead and cap it, and then you want to come over here to the reservoir and fill it up to the proper level. Now you get in the truck and make sure that you turn on the heater. Turn on the heater on max and then go ahead and turn it on until the truck reaches operating temperature. So here we are with the truck at operating temperature. Now we can turn it off. Just come over here and take a look at the coolant level at the reservoir. Make sure that's good. And go ahead and take a look at all your hose connections and all the connections on the radiator and check for any leaks. Once the truck has cooled off, you can open up the radiator cap and make sure that the coolant is up to a proper level. So there you go, guys. That's how you replace a radiator. In this case, I did it on a 3.0, but the same steps should apply to basically any other vehicle. So I hope this video helped you guys out. Remember to like, comment, share, subscribe, and all those other goodies. Thank you.